Back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. We'll go out to the hotline right now. A man who's a legend here in Philadelphia, was the head coach for the Birds and led them to a Super Bowl appearance where they lost to the Oakland Raiders. And he was also had a plethora of success with the Chiefs and won a Super Bowl with the Rams as well. And I see this man every year down at Radio Row, and that is the one and only Coach Dick Vermeil. Coach, it's Zach Gelb and Chase Sr., WHIP Radio here in Philly. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. A little disappointed last night. I didn't get to watch any of the game because I was at a Vermeil wine dinner that we had scheduled long before the NFL schedule came out. So I'm going to have to catch up. I did listen to the radio on the way home, but when I heard they were minus in turnovers, I knew they just about eliminated all chances to win.
Well, if you want to take one positive from last night, Coach, I bet your wine sales went up after the game because these Eagle fans are on the ledge right now.
No, hey, tell them to be patient. The defense got better. I think the defense overall, from what I read and what I listened to in the second half, played better than they did a week ago. So that's a plus. They got pressure on the quarterback, knocked him around a little bit. They didn't take the ball away enough. So they gave the ball away. They didn't take it away. You're going to lose every time. I know at -3 you only have a 91% chance to win. You only have a 9% chance to win. So imagine -5, you almost had no chance. It's amazing that the game was that close in the third quarter with the turnover factor that they had in the first half.
Well, you've been booed and you've been applauded here in Philadelphia, so you know both sides of it. And before the game, a lot of people were apprehensive here in the media what the reaction would be for Andy Reid and even for Donovan McNabb at halftime. And it was standing ovations for both the player and the former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles who won the football game last night with the Chiefs. That was a real special moment last night in Philadelphia. I know you didn't get to see it, but I still don't get it why some fans have animosity for Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb.
Well, they never won a Super Bowl, and that's the criteria today. Hell, the media is the same way. There are many media people that don't think you do a good job unless you win the Super Bowl. And now I'll tell you this, I found this out a long time ago. There are some coaching jobs done better than people that do win the Super Bowl that don't even get in the playoffs. But they're a great job of coaching with the personnel they have, and they get more out of their personnel than a team that went to the Super Bowl and won it. But that's the criteria, and I think everybody in the business understands that. But I think the Eagles will grow from that experience. Adversity and building a program is good for it. You weed out the second-guessers, the doubting Thomases, and they gradually develop a more solid foundation, having been through tough times together. And, as tough as it is, it's good for them once in a while, and I think they'll grow from it.
You've been in both the Philadelphia market and Kansas City, being a head coach of both of those clubs. How do the fan bases compare? What are some similarities and maybe some differences that Andy Reid's going through right now that you went through many years ago?
Well, I think the similarities are both communities are very passionate about their team. A little difference, I don't think Kansas City is quite as intense. They care about the team just as much, but their personality, they don't display the negative side of their personality quite as much as the Philadelphia Eagle fan. And that's not a negative in Philadelphia. I mean, they love you so much they get mad at you, just like they do their own kids when they make a mistake. They really identify with the team, and they live and die with them every week. And like the old cliche is, their blood bleeds green, and it is true. Kansas City blood bleeds red, but they're not quite as ornery.
Dick, it's Chase Sr. Thanks for hopping on board with us. You were the head coach of the Eagles from 76 to 82, and although I'm only 21 years old, I'm a local guy, and I know what you brought to the table, and I know this fan base is high on what you brought to the organization and the city. Can you just sum up how your career was in Philadelphia and some of the pluses and minuses that came with coaching in the city of brotherly love?
Well, I think overall it was a very, very, very plus experience for me. That's why we still live here. It's a great city. I have great fans. I have a great relationship with the entire community. And you earn that relationship. You earn that credibility over a long period of time. It takes time. Just like Andy earned his credibility, got a standing ovation after 2 losing seasons. That's the Philadelphia fan. They may get mad at you. That doesn't mean they don't love you. And me, I stayed in the community. I was very visible on Blue Cross for a number of years, and with Cadillac in advertising, and I've been in thousands of charity events and shook hands and met a lot of nice people. And I think when we were going through tough times, they identified with me more so than getting mad at me, because they hadn't won in so many years. And in 1978, after 16 or 18 years, they finally went back to the playoffs, and they bought in, and they're going to stay with you. That's the way they are. They're extremely loyal.
We talked about this before as Dick Vermeil joins us on the hotline. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. 215-204-9449 is our number. Main event, Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. We talked about this before, but the only negative that really comes up in your career here in Philadelphia was that Super Bowl loss. I don't think they treat you right in that respect, because they say you were too tough on your players with the Raiders, let them roam New Orleans. Can you just touch on that?
Well, I think any time you lose, they've got to find something that was the reason you lost, other than you were -3 in turnovers. Okay, we didn't play well that day, and that's all there is to it. And when you don't play well in a big game like that, you get beat. Unlike the NBA or Major League Baseball, it's not a series of a best-of-7. It's a best-of-1. But I do know this: it takes the same thing to get to a Super Bowl and lose as it does to get there and win. Now, winning's a hell of a lot more fun. But my Eagle team did more in 7 years to get there and lose than my Ram team did to get there in 3 years and win.
Coach, moving to the game last night, I know you mentioned that you weren't able to watch the game because you had some previously planned event, but LaShawn McCoy runs it in for a touchdown with 11:36 to go to pull the Eagles within 23-16. They then had the Chiefs back down to their own 5-yard line, and it's a 3rd and 10, and Alex Smith completes a pass to Donnie Avery to convert on the 3rd down and move the chains.
Right.
When you have a team back down to its own 5-yard line, and a circumstance where it is a 3rd and 10, the fans are on their feet, the stadium's going wild, and the opposing team converts on the 3rd down. How deflating is that to a ball club?
It can emotionally disrupt you, believe me. From the coaching staff, I'm down, but I'm sure they called the defense that they felt would work. And if it were the shoe were on the other foot, you'd be lauding. You would say, "What a great job Michael Vick did on that 3rd and 10."
Mm-hmm.
This time it was Smith. Alex Smith did a great job on 3rd and 10. Andy Reid did a great job on 3rd and 10, and they converted. And then they kept the drive going. And I looked in the paper this morning. They had a much higher percentage conversion rate on 3rd down than the Eagles did. And with their fast tempo, they've got to convert on 3rd down or they're off the field. And time of possession sometimes is not important, but in a tight game like that, it can end up biting you in the rear end.
Super Bowl winning head coach Dick Vermeil joins us. We'll talk about Vermeil wines in a few minutes. But, Coach, this Chip Kelly offense, and I know you've been very close with the coach since he's come here to Philadelphia, and you've also made a similar transition when you went from UCLA to Philadelphia. What have been your impressions so far with this Chip Kelly offense? Because last night was their first big test going up against a top 10 defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, and quite frankly, they didn't play that well. They were terrible on offense.
Well, they didn't get some things done, but they went over 400 yards on offense. If they continue to go at 400 yards plus a game, they'll be in the top 5 offenses in the NFL already in his first year. So I am impressed. But they've got to hone the other phases of it, the red zone, the 3rd down conversions, the pass protection scheme. They're running the ball. Of course, Michael got a lot of those yards, but Shady McCoy, he's running at a record pace.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very impressed with the offense. I really am. I think they'll modify some things. They'll add some things to it. And I think it's a very, very promising scheme in the National Football League.
The offense for the Eagles has showed a lot of promise. A lot of big plays have been on the field, and what they've done is a little unconventional. They've also done some traditional things as well, but all in all, the offense has showed a lot of potential to put some points on the board. The yards show for that, but it also comes down to converting in between the 20s. When you get into the red zone, it's almost as if the play calling is totally different. How hard is it to convert inside the 20s when the defense is clamping down, knowing that they can't give up any points and they take a little bit of a bend but don't break approach?
Well, it's a lot tougher down there. I'd say it's 3 times tougher to move the ball down there. First off, the defense doesn't have to defend the field. They defend, from the 20-yard line in, 10 yards into the end zone. They have 30 yards of field to defend. A lot easier. The defense gains an advantage. That's when it's really good if you can really run the ball. If you can really run the ball and your other things, your phases, your offense go well. But I know it's tough. Andy Reid had just as much trouble in the red zone as the Eagles did. He really did. They get their first score for a long time on an interception. In that whole ball game until late in the game, though, do they score? So, they had the same team. All teams have problems in the red zone. Some teams more than others, and sometimes it takes new coaching staffs a while to figure out what they have to do better in the red zone, more so than any other area in the field. They get it down there, and it's, oh my gosh, pretty tough.
Coach, you had one of the best offense in the league history with that Rams team that won a Super Bowl for you, defeating the Titans, and that was the greatest show on turf, and you had so many good players, whether it was Falk, Isaac Bruce, Kurt Warner. That was just a real talented group of players. This Eagles group, they definitely don't have the talent that your Rams team have, but there was a lot of talks after week one of how explosive this offense could be, how they could be an offensive juggernaut under Chip Kelly. How good do you think this offense could be? I don't think you'll see this offense be as good in year one, but it would be the progression in years 2 and 3 where this offense should take off.
I think the offense will end up in the top 5 in the NFL this year. If they stay healthy, if they get hurt, they won't. But I really think they can. If they can play like they did last night with 5 giveaways and go for over 425 yards in a game, what would they do when they don't turn the ball over?
Yeah.
And the yards per play, there was a big difference. The yards per play, the Eagles were much better in yards per play. But you can't turn the ball over. That's all there is to it. Very few teams are good enough to still win when you turn the ball over. That's all there is to it.
Now, you had the opportunity to go to Chip Kelly's training camp when the Birds were practicing, and you've seen some of the reps that this team is going through right now. Do you see any similarities with that Rams team, the greatest show on turf, and this Eagles team in 2013?
Well, the Rams team in 1999 went through 2 years, 1997 and 98, of 2 years are really, really tough. It's 5.5 hours a day on the field in pads in training camp. And
can't do that these days.
For 2 years, every day on the practice field. And those guys that made it, plus the players that we added to it, ended up being a hell of a football team. It's more talented. It's more talented, more explosive. We had more people that could touch the ball and make a huge play. When losing the one wide receiver on the opposite side of Jackson really hurts them. Really hurts them.
Yeah, Macklin.
And so they can get on Jackson a little bit more. And it's not that the other guy isn't a good player, but he's not as big a threat for the home run. But so we had more talent. We had a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame running back, and maybe 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers and a Hall of Fame left tackle. Other than that, I was all coaching.
Coach, on the way out here, before we get to the wines, and every year we see at Radio Row down at the Super Bowl with Tom Ward walking around with the wines, and it's a great company. And just real quick, my father, as you know, produced your show 32 years ago in Philadelphia, and he always played an audio clip for me when you retired with the Eagles, and you said you would never coach again. Why did you want to come back to the game? What was that appeal that the NFL offered to you?
Well, first off, you have to know what you are. Okay, and I always thought I was a coach. I never said I was a great coach. I was a very fortunate coach. When we won, I was fortunate to have good players and good coaches with me. But that's what I am. I miss the teaching. I miss the relationships. I miss the competition. I miss the NFL. But I was a little afraid to go back, and I had opportunities to go back every year I was out. At least talk to teams. They would contact me, but I didn't go, and maybe I chickened out. But when I finally did, I was glad I did, and I was a little disappointed in that I should have gone back earlier. I could have taken the Kansas City Chiefs job in 1989. I should have gone. I didn't. But I don't look back and tout about it. I just move forward, and I'm very fortunate that the Rams hired me at the age that I was at that time, and I'm very fortunate that after I made the mistake of leaving them, that Carl Peterson came after me and said, hey, you've got to go back to work, and I did. So and those years at Kansas City were great. That's why I knew Andy Reid would love Kansas City.
Before we let you run, tell me a little bit more about Vermeil Wines and the great work that you're doing with your company.
Well, our wines are getting better. We're not selling more. We have to sell more. Maybe we're not doing a good job in the red zone. Okay?
You turning the ball over and put the ball on the carpet?
We're about a 7-9 team. And we've got to get it. We've got to get it going. And the state rules hurt us here in Pennsylvania with the state store system and all that kind of stuff. You know, you can't automatically ship into here, so we don't get wine club members from Philadelphia like we do other states. We have 335 wine club members that get shipments 4 times a year of our wines, and we can't do that here in the state of Pennsylvania. And hopefully, gradually they'll do that, and hopefully they'll do a little better job helping us with our wine. They don't have an obligation to help us, but the little winery struggles in the state's store scheme of things. That's all there is to it. And I understand it. So I'm not complaining about it. Houston's our best city, believe it or not, in Texas, not too far from Dallas that hated me. So we sell more wine there than we do in Philadelphia.
Now, do you guys specialize in red and white? Or?
Yeah, mostly reds.
Okay.
Cabernet is our lead. We have a very, very high-end cab that we only make 100 cases of. Then we have the JLV, our lead cab. And then we have, some blends. We have a couple of Zinfandels that are outstanding Zinfandels, old vineyards, 1956 planted vineyard and a 1908 planted vineyard. So we have great vineyards, and we're making very good wine. We've won double gold medals. We've won blind wine tastings. We just don't have the power yet to get it in the hands and to the knowledge of wine people around the country, so they really want to buy it.
Well, one of these days, after a stressful day of radio and a long, heavy load of classes, I'll have to sit back with a steak and try a bottle of Vermeil wine.
I promise you, if you go to the premium store, some of the premium stores carry a few bottles of our wine.
Okay.
Okay?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, Coach, I'm confident, and I know that you have won Super Bowls, and you had the greatest show on turf. I know you will definitely have the greatest wine in a cup one day, so we appreciate a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Dick Vermeil right there.